One must never underestimate the value of education. Planet Express's latest assignment is to take the professor's new equipment to his office at Mars University. While touring the campus, Fry is informed that, due to changing educational standards over the intervening millennium, his status as a 20th century college dropout is equivalent only to a 30th century high school dropout. Furious, he decides to enroll at Mars University and drop out of college again. Meanwhile, Bender pays a visit to the local chapter of his old robot fraternity, and is horrified to discover that the brothers are all a bunch of nerds. They beg him for help learning how to be cool, and he agrees, leading them in a whirlwind of debauched escapades. Alas, his recklessness leads to the frat attracting the ire of the stodgy Dean Vernon, who places them on probation. As Fry settles into his new dorm, his roommate arrives. It's the professor's experiment, a monkey named Gunther, granted with hyperintelligence by a high-tech hat that the professor created for him. At the Parents' Day reception, Fry releases Gunther's parents from their cage, and their feral behavior humiliates the poor genius monkey. That night at their dorm room, Gunther confesses that he feels like he doesn't belong anywhere, and that watching his parents has made him miss life in the jungle, but he can't leave without disappointing the professor, whom he sees as a father figure. Exam season soon approaches, and Gunther finally buckles under the pressure. With a wild scream, the monkey throws the hat aside and flees out the window into the untamed jungles of the terraformed Mars. Fry, Leela, and the professor follow, Leela forming a plan. The professor will offer Gunther the hat, while Fry offers him a banana, which one he takes will help him determine whether he truly wishes to live as a man or as a beast. But before Gunther can decide, Bender and the robot frat speed past in their bid to win the fraternity raft regatta, their wake dragging the humans into the river. They cannot fight the current and are dragged toward a nearby waterfall in their inevitable deaths. Only Gunther can save them now. Taking the hat, the monkey's intellect is restored and he begins to calculate a solution. A vine is thrown at just the right angle and the crew is saved, but Gunther remains in peril. Leela begs him to climb the vine back to safety, but he refuses. He can't go back to being a dumb animal, but his intelligence has brought him nothing but misery. The vine soon breaks and Gunther falls down the waterfall into the rocks below. The grieving Planet Express crew climbs down the cliff to collect their fallen friend, only to find that Gunther has miraculously survived. The hat cushioned his fall, but it was damaged, now only working at half capacity. The professor offers to fix it, but Gunther declines, finding new happiness in his now average intelligence. As the day draws to a close, Robot House wins the boat race, forcing the dean to revoke their probation. Fry successfully drops out of the university, Gunther transfers to business school, and Bender steals everything of value from Robot House before leaving. College is a wild time in life, and this semester, they all found what they came for. Welcome to Space Podcast 3000, where the future is in the past.
So this is going to be a hard one for me to talk about because I never went to college, so this is not something I've experienced firsthand.
Yeah, my college experience wasn't quite like this. The only thing that I could really relate to is Fry saying he overslept and them saying it's 5 o'clock. I'm like, yeah, I've done that.
I mean, we've all been there.
And I have yet to finish college, and even at that, it's not one with dorms.
Yeah, I was taking classes at night mostly because I wanted to be able to sleep during the day. I was like this was like 6 months out of high school, so I went directly into college. Unfortunately, it was the college I went to. It was ITT, so it was a kind of a scam for-profit place, and it's like, I still had to go to classes and everything. I still had to do the courses, but I decided to take the night courses, so my class would start at like 6 and end at 9.
Yeah, I've taken quite a few night classes.
Can't say I've ever had that experience. Anyway, let's talk about the actual episode. I'm curious what Leela's eating in that opening scene, because it just looks like nondescript tan gloop.
They did that in a lot of the Simpsons episodes, where they're just eating whatever.
Oatmeal?
Maybe?
Possibly, yeah.
Except it was on a plate, not a bowl.
Plate meal? I don't know. Omelet?
Oatmeal can be thick enough to eat off a plate.
Fair. Although in that same scene, Fry is drinking a can of Slurm, if you noticed, and we'll see more on that soon.
Yeah, well, Slurm is... you can drink that at any time. And Fry would.
Slurm for TV game.
There was a lot of jokes in this where I kept thinking, there could be a different way of doing this joke, or just how I would have written it differently. Like when the professor mentions that his plan could be this ticket to getting the Nobel Prize. Like, what category? And it's like, oh, they're all the same. They all pay the same. And I'm thinking, like, well, that was an opportunity to come up with a really goofy category, like the Nobel Prize in War.
Yeah, that would have been a good joke. That would have gotten a bigger laugh out of me.
Or some other made-up category that would only apply to the future.
I especially thought that it was funny because that was actually something that I had, like, back in elementary school, with like, what do you want to accomplish with your... I would actually write, win a Nobel Prize. Only because I knew that if you have a Nobel Prize, you get money every year. And that was the only reason I wanted the Nobel Prize, was to get money every year.
I mean, in the mind of a child, that makes sense.
You had your priorities straight pretty early.
This is like third or fourth grade, so...
Maybe they could have come up with some category with some incredibly long, like 20 words, so specific that it's like, why is this a category?
So yeah, Mars University established in 2636, which, I mean, I feel like they just kind of pulled these numbers out of anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like anyone's really going to be paying attention to those years.
Well, you never know. With Star Trek, there's people that know the individual star dates.
Well, did you notice the school motto on the sign?
Knowledge brings fear. Which isn't wrong.
Right, yeah. But in many cases, it's people that are afraid of your knowledge, and they try to pass laws stopping you from doing things.
In Latin, it probably would be something like Doctrina Affert Terror, maybe? Actually, did you hear about that school that had to change their motto because it was I see, I hear, I learn, which in Latin was audio, video, disco?
My favorite Latin motto is Quid Latin dictum sit altum videtur.
Which, give a translation on that, please, for our listeners.
Anything said in Latin sounds profound.
That's a good one. It's kind of weird that, I don't know why, but the opening credits theme song was remixed in this episode, and I don't know why.
Maybe because of the whole college thing? Maybe it's supposed to sound like an opening for that kind of thing? I don't know. I didn't really notice.
It was more of a sort of an electronica remix, and it was weird. Like, it wasn't bad, I just don't know why this episode in particular. I really like the university campus with that alien equestrian with the ray gun. Like, that's a good statue.
One of my favorite visual gags is how they had the line for admission, and it's like A through M, N through Y, and then Z is the biggest fun line.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd be close to the end there.
There were a lot of really good background gags in this episode, like the library. The arch over it lists Socrates, Vos Savant, who Marilyn Vos Savant is the highest recorded IQ of 228. At least she was the highest recorded IQ in 1985. And the third name on there was Cognitron.
Probably just a robot designed to be smart.
Probably. And then that library has the largest collection of literature in the known universe, and it's just on 2 CDs, fiction and nonfiction.
Probably ultraviolet discs by now.
These days, you can find collections like that on Minecraft.
No, actually, they did build like a massive library with like every freaking book in Minecraft.
Yeah, there's also like the uncensored library.
Yeah, I heard about that, and the problem is there's people that are able to access it from countries where these books are censored and banned, but they're able to access it in Minecraft and read these books, which is freaking awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now that's cyberpunk.
Oh, absolutely.
Cybercraft.
I really like the gag where Fry's just like, back in the 20th century, we had no idea there was a university on Mars. And then you have the professor comparing the uninhabitable pre-terraformed Mars to Utah. They're finally picking on a state other than New Jersey.
Yay.
Yeah, if you're gonna pick on a state, yeah, Utah is a good one to do.
I mean, considering New Jersey has one of the highest population densities out of the states, you can't really say it's uninhabited.
You can't live in New Jersey, there's too many people there.
Can't go. No one drives anymore. There's too much traffic.
Yeah, exactly. I did like it was. I don't know how deliberate this joke was, but I think it was. I don't know how to teach. I'm a professor.
That's a great line.
So, yeah, you're because that's the thing. Is like a lot of these professors, they work at the university just so they can have money for their research, but they're not trained to actually teach people. That's not what their purpose is. And it takes a specific kind of person to be able to actually teach others effectively.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about one of my friends and my former boss, whose dad was the head of psychology at the local university here. And he really liked being the department head because it freed him from the requirement to do research and publish and let him focus on his passion, which was teaching.
Huh. It's kind of the opposite then.
Yeah, well, because in academia, you have that constant pressure to, publish, and he just hated that.
Right, and that's actually a problem where they're ending up with people that are specifically they're specifically doing experiments just so they can have things to publish. Like, they try for as many things as possible. There's a bit of a stigma against the null hypothesis, where you find out that your hypothesis is incorrect, which is just as valid of a discovery, but it doesn't lend itself to publishing. That's the problem.
Yeah, academic publishing is kind of a majorly broken system, especially since you have all these magazines and publications putting this stuff behind a paywall when most of the people publishing them just want them to be accessible.
Right, yeah. So usually if there is a research paper that you're trying to get that's behind a paywall, just find the authors of it and and ask them. They'll usually send you a copy of it for free because they don't get any money out of it anyway in these paywall sites, which is just bullshit.
And then you have the the scam publications who will publish literally anything and constantly send out letters to people. Like, there was a guy who actually responded to one of these unsolicited requests for for something to publish with a paper titled "Get Me Off Your Mailing List," and it was just the words "Get me off your mailing list" repeated for like 20 pages with like graphs that just read out "Get me off your mailing list" and all that. And they actually published it.
What?
And they published it. It's like when people say, I would like this on a t-shirt, and they have like the fake things like, we would like to get sued by Disney, so here's Mickey Mouse giving the finger.
Yep.
Yeah, because, if you say, oh, I'd like this on a shirt, like, all those bots come in and your stuff ends up on some random site.
Yeah, which thankfully they're shutting those things down using anti-bot tactics, and that's cyberpunk there too.
And now, of course, you have NFT bots on Twitter.
Yeah.
Let's not get into NFTs. That's all. That would be like a 20-minute rant in itself. So let's get back to the episode. Did you know that the Bender's old robot fraternity, Epsilon Rho Rho, it's just looks like ERR? It's an error code.
Yeah, error. Yeah.
Oh.
And then, of course, Bender majored in bending with a minor in Robo-American Studies. I can respect that.
Which kind of goes against what we see in a much later episode, where just his college experience was just being programmed.
I mean, you could argue that was bending college.
Yeah, but he attended it. So how do you attend a bending college when you're on a conveyor belt?
Fair enough, I suppose.
Yeah, it's obviously it's just a joke. They're not trying to do too much continuity. That is kind of the biggest problem. I like this episode. This episode was funny, but it didn't really have nothing in the episode really seemed to accomplish anything. It was just kind of an excuse to show a bunch of college-related jokes, but it didn't really seem to lead anything. Everything kind of fell back to the status quo. status quo by the end. Gunther is back to more or less normal. He wasn't really gonna... I know he does come back in later episodes, but he doesn't really... He's happy now, I guess, which is good. But like Bender, he attends briefly and then leaves. Fry drops out because I do like that as the premise. Like his entire goal is to drop out of college, so he's no longer a high school dropout. He has the respect of a college dropout. That's such a great. It's just such a great comedic premise to phrase it that way.
Now you said that like Gunter comes back in later episodes. He doesn't. He never shows up again.
Really, I could have sworn he comes back later.
Maybe you're thinking of Nibbler, since they're both ape-like.
Maybe, and I know Nibbler is. Maybe that is why they got rid of Gunther, because they wanted to kind of have Nibbler to fill that role of the cute guy who's well spoken.
Yeah, that would be kind of redundant to have both of them. But it is weird that they would spend so much time in this episode developing Gunther just to never use him again. And that is definitely the biggest weakness of this episode, that it's just a whole bunch of college cliches and this character who, takes all of this focus for just this episode.
He does have some great lines, though. Gunther is easily the funniest part of this episode, mostly because of just how shitty he treats Fry and how much he seems to revel in it.
Oh, he's hysterical, don't get me wrong. It's just, I wish that they'd brought him back.
That line from Goodwill, that line parodying Goodwill Hunting, I got her number. How do you like them bananas? Like,
yeah, I feel like his whole thing is an homage to something like, was it Goodwill Hunting? It might have been.
Yeah, that was Goodwill Hunting, where the janitor is actually a super genius, but he just wasn't given the opportunities.
Yeah, it's still a very different plot, but that might have been what they were homaging. I'm not sure.
That literally is what they were homaging, because that's the same scene in Goodwill Hunting where he puts the thing on the glasses like, do you like apples? I got her number. How do you like them apples?
No, I know that was a Goodwill Hunting joke. I just wasn't sure if it was the whole plot line. But of course you have Bender, and his whole subplot is just Animal House.
Yeah.
And like, okay, there's some good jokes from his subplot here, but I didn't get a whole lot out of it because I don't like Animal House.
I haven't seen it. So it's one of those movies that it's like it's very much a bro movie, I guess you'd call it.
It's not the kind of thing I'd watch, probably.
Yeah, like I watched it because it was supposedly this comedy classic, and I just didn't find it all that funny.
I felt the same about Caddyshack.
Yeah, that one too.
It's a very similar kind of movie, yeah, where it's just comedians doing goofy things, but I'm like, I've seen plenty of things that were like that, and yeah.
Every Adam Sandler movie?
At least Adam Sandler movies had kind of a more flowing plot. It could be the fact that we are kind of we live in a world where these cliches have been established already, but when these movies were written, they weren't quite the same cliches. So a lot of the movies that were written after the fact are trying to like capture what these original movies managed to do. So it's almost like if you compare Half-Life to any of the post-Half-Life first-person shooters that like Half-Life at the time was this revolutionary idea where like everything is first-person, everything is in this cohesive world, but now that's kind of the standard for a lot of adventure first-person shooters.
Yeah, I was having that conversation with a friend not too long ago. It's the Seinfeld effect, where you have this work that is revolutionary and hugely influential because it does all these things that no one's done before, but because it's so influential, when you look back at it later, with having seen all of the things that have come later that have done all of those things better, it just doesn't seem, it's like, why was this such a big deal? Well, you have to look at the context of the time, but again, even by the point in time this episode was made, I have to feel like this stuff was all already pretty cliche.
Well, exactly. That is the joke, that these are all college cliches. That is the entire joke, where they go to this college and it's like, but unfortunately, if you remove that aspect of the jokes themselves, I mean, they still work, but it doesn't, like we said, it doesn't really lead to anything. Everything just returns to the status quo by the end. Even the fact that the professor is an actual professor, that never really comes into play too much later.
Yeah. I'm surprised they didn't really do much with Amy in this episode, considering she's A, from Mars, and B, her parents give tons of money to the college.
Yeah, why is she even in these classes, actually? She's already a grad student.
Yeah, and she has her job as an intern with Planet Express, so Maybe she just wanted to take some more courses. I can see people do that. Like, they don't want to be an adult yet, so they take more courses until they're in their 30s.
Getting your master's.
Yeah.
TZ, have you ever seen the show Crazy Ex-Girlfriend?
No.
Because there's a character in that took that exact thing to its logical extreme as a joke, where she ends up forced to graduate because
there's no other classes to take?
Yeah, because she has taken literally every single class they offer.
Wow.
Go to a new college, then.
Depends on whether or not your credits can transfer.
I don't think that character would have minded, because then they just have to get more credits, and that's more time in school.
Anyway, back to the episode. So, the joke of Bender having apparently crammed 58 humans into a phone booth and just this urban legend, and how his response is just like, oh, a lot of them were children. That's a really good dark joke. I got a chuckle from that.
The other joke that I felt would have been, I had kind of a different idea for it, was when they're tracking Gunther in the jungle, and they shoot out the tranquilizer bomb, and all the animals fall out of the trees, and like they'll wake up once the tranquilizer wears off, and they'll be fine. And then like the tiger falls out, and I'm thinking, okay, well the tiger is so much bigger, so the tranquilizer would have had less of an effect on him. So I can imagine the tiger waking up and eating all the other animals while they're knocked out. But no, they just get crushed by an elephant that was for some reason in the tree, which I guess is a good visual gag. But my joke would have gone probably a bit darker.
Yeah, yours would have been darker. This one, I think, is funnier just because it's a lot faster, snappier, and gets the point across instantly.
The absurdity of it.
Yeah, also the added absurdity of this random rhino just being in this tree.
L'elephant. It was an elephant, not a rhinoceros.
I'm pretty sure it was a rhino, but you might be right.
Yeah. Speaking of dark jokes, when Fry mentions the jungles on Earth and the professor just laughs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like, it's only gotten worse now than it was.
Back in the 2000s, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we'll have a whole episode to talk about climate change later on.
Oh boy.
So the same scene that introduces the Bender's fraternity here has my favorite joke in the episode, where Gearshift is talking about how lame their fraternity is, and he says even Hillel has better parties than us, and I had to choke back laughter to avoid losing my shit and needing to pause the episode.
Because I heard you laughing, and I wasn't sure I got that joke. I didn't quite hear it.
So Hillel International is a Jewish student services organization on college campuses.
Okay.
And he's saying that they throw better parties than us.
I've never been to a Jewish party, so I can't relate, but I can imagine it wouldn't be exactly a banger.
I mean, I've been to a bat mitzvah.
Yeah, I've been to a bar mitzvah, yeah, that was a long time ago, and it's my Jewish friends, but...
Well, the joke there is Hillel isn't really a fraternity, it's a student services organization.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Poor Gunther, just the stress of all these expectations on you.
Like, he gets overstressed by college and runs out into the jungle after throwing off his clothes. I mean, who hasn't done that, really?
Yeah. Look, you ruined a perfectly good monkey is what you did. Look at him, he's got an existential crisis.
It's the same story with every gifted child, frankly.
Yeah, pretty much.
True.
I mean, I want to just briefly bring up Mob Psycho 100 because that's like one of the main themes of that anime. The whole idea that just because you have a gift, that's just a trait. It doesn't make you any better than anyone else, and there's nothing forcing you to use it. You can do whatever you want with your life.
I'm reminded of the series My Gym Partner is a Monkey, because like
Yes.
when I saw like My Roommate is a Monkey, it's like, isn't that an anime?
No, it's a cartoon.
Yeah, that was a Western cartoon, and I remember it being okay.
Yeah, it was just average.
I mean, it was a cartoon in the mid-2000s.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of those were hit or miss.
Yeah.
Unlike this early 2000s cartoon, which is great.
Well, okay, kids animation in the mid-2000s was largely hit or miss compared to, the like supposed golden age of the 90s and what we have now, which is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Though, really, even adult animation has always been mostly crap.
Of course, I mean, you don't. Not every series has to be this amazing, great thing. I mean, my gym partner is a monkey. Is like, what do you expect with a name like that? Really, it doesn't have to be anything hard hitting.
No, but
it's like Two Stupid Dogs. It's like, come on, what do you want? It's just a silly cartoon.
It is what it says it is.
Yeah, exactly what it says on the tin.
But in regards to adult animation, yeah, like, first of all, the art style of a lot of them is not the greatest. I mean, art is subjective, but still. And also, a lot of them, just, like, being either raunchy or gory, using drugs, violence, sex.
Yeah, I think with adult animation, we need more stuff like Futurama and less stuff like Mr. Pickles.
Yeah. King of the Hill's pretty good, so is Bob's Burgers.
I haven't really seen much of either of those, but I keep hearing good things.
Bob's Burgers is probably one of the best ones that's currently on TV, because most people don't like Family Guy anymore. A lot of them have kind of moved over to Bob's Burgers.
Yeah, I think I binged Bob's Burgers the same summer that I binged Futurama.
So here's my hot take. Family Guy was never good. I'm serious! I can count on one hand the number of jokes in Family Guy that I actually thought were funny. And I mean this literally.
Again, we're kind of living in a post-Family Guy world where, I mean, if you look at the time that Family Guy was originally done, at the time, nobody was doing humor like that. And unfortunately, Family Guy is so far removed from what it originally was. That's the big problem.
See, I just don't enjoy its style of humor. I think it's incredibly mean-spirited, and it doesn't appeal to me. I watch that show, and I wish I was watching anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've often made the joke that I will take the worst episode of The Simpsons over the best episode of Family Guy. And I looked it up, and it's like the worst episode is like The Principal and the Pauper, and the best episode of Family Guy is like the Journey of Stewie Griffin, or whatever it's called.
I don't know, man. I still have plenty of jokes to talk about, honestly. I have a lot of notes on this one. Like Bender talking about eating 10 kegs of beer, a continuous tape of Louie Louie, and a regulation 2-story panty raid ladder. There are regulations for panty raids?
I'm just curious, how does a robot streak?
Good question!
That's what he was famous for, was chugging a keg of beer and streaking.
Maybe he had his wires exposed, because that's typically what they consider robot nudity.
Yeah, and because they do take the face off of that computer, which is basically like an old Macintosh. It's like, damn.
Yeah, it is. I need to, hang on, I need to find where I have that written in my notes, because I know one sec. Yeah, that's... Yeah, Bender and company peeping on that dorm of girls and going gaga over their computer, and to be fair, I would do the same, since it's a Macintosh 512K from 1984, an absolute antique. And, like, it's genuinely impressive to find computers that old that still work even now, let alone in 1,000 years, so I am genuinely impressed.
Maybe it's a replica, but who knows?
Who knows? So Fry attended Coney Island Community College.
And that could have just been a one-off joke, but no, they actually show what it was like.
Yeah, go Whitefish! That was a small joke, but I liked that. And apparently he carries his notice of failure to graduate around in his pocket at all times. Who does that?
If you're proud of it,
I guess.
And I just love that joke that he's proud that he dropped out. And he didn't even drop out of a real college. It's kind of another part of this joke.
Yeah, how do you drop out of a fake college?
I just like the visual gag with... They kind of hit this before with the Titanic episode with Bender's eyes bugging out, but it pushes him off the ladder. This is... I like the physics-based jokes like that.
Yeah. In the professor's class, he's giving a lecture on Witten's dog. Is that some kind of a Schrodinger's cat joke?
I'm not sure.
Possibly. You got Schrodinger's cat, Pavlov's dog, Scope's monkey.
I know it's a reference to Ed Witten. He's a theoretical physicist who's considered the founder of M-theory. But what would his dog be? Like, what kind of thought experiment?
Okay, imagine you have a 10-dimensional dog. Where does its poop go? I don't know.
I'm just really curious what Witten's dog would be. And I know it's just a background gag that I'm getting really hung up on, but I can't get over this.
That's what this series does to you. You get hung up on the background guys. Because they put the effort there. They had the things in the background. Obviously, they wanted people to notice them.
They put a lambda in the girl's phone number that Gunter got.
Yeah. It could have been possibly they didn't want to use a real phone number. So they just throw a random letter in there. So
well, it's a good joke that, there's just, there's a lambda there.
Yeah, because colleges. But also, after all this time, maybe Mars specifically has different digits. Yeah.
Because if everybody has their own cell phone, you can't have that many more numbers.
So it's time for our obligatory anti-capitalist eat the rich joke. The guy from Snooty House saying, "You've damaged our servants' quarters and our servants." And they mention the servants' quarters before the actual servants, further demonstrating that the rich care more about property than people.
Of course.
Yeah.
I don't want to linger on this one for too long, though.
We could have made this entire episode about the scam of the college industry, but we're not gonna bother.
I mean, there is definitely value in education, but for-profit college and the fact that it's so expensive now is absolutely criminal.
Yeah. Oh, I know that. I know that feeling all too well.
Yeah, there wasn't really anything within the episode that would fall under that.
No, there wasn't really all the episode. Yeah, exactly. They didn't go too much into how pointless it is. Because none of them graduate and have no use of their degree. I don't think any because the entire purpose was Bender just ended up stealing all the stuff from Robot House.
Yeah, and then Fry dropped out as he planned, and Gunter transferred to business school and became the president of the Fox network. Great biting the hand joke.
Of course.
And of course, when he's saying that, all I want out of life is to be a monkey of moderate intelligence who wears a suit, so I'm transferring to business school.
That's the real person at the expense there is businessmen in monkey suits.
I really liked the running joke of the increasingly cheap signs in the shitty financial aid dorm just falling down and getting replaced with an even cheaper sign.
At some point, they should just scrawl it onto the wall instead of putting up a sign.
Then the wall will fall down, and then they'll be missing a piece of the building.
Well, that's what they did the last time, because it was initially, an actual sign. Then it was replaced with a piece of cardboard, and then the third time we cut to it, it's just painted on the wall. And there's a goat eating the cardboard.
Martian goat.
Also, the nameless history professor bragging that a lot of students will fail his class. That's not something to brag about, dude. That's an indictment of your own teaching abilities.
Yeah, it's like 90% of you will not pass. Like, oh, so you admit you suck at your job.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And Dean Vernon, I like him. He's a funny character.
Oh, he's just the over-the-top caricature of the insane Dean.
Yeah, or principal, any sort of character in that sort of position.
The authority figure.
I do love, in that original Simpsons episode where Homer goes to college, they subvert every one of these tropes, which is absolutely brilliant. The dean is, really likable, and there's this relationship between the jocks and the nerds that's, doesn't even exist. They're just all students. And it's that's how college really is. They really don't have these kind of over-the-top, over-dramatic cliques and things. It's no, people are just there to go to do their classes and pretty much just keep to themselves.
Yeah, I didn't have any cliques really when I was in high school. I mean, the dungeon master in my Dungeons and Dragons group was also on the lacrosse team.
Right.
The only clique was me by myself, pretty much.
Aw.
It's not as bad as it was in elementary school.
I mean, ironically, I hung out mostly with the queer kids, and I didn't even realize I was queer yet.
Yeah.
Nova, the lesbian so useless, it took her 28 years to realize she was even a girl, let alone gay. Anyway, so Dean Vernon blaming Robot House for pulling fire alarms, raiding the campus liquor store, and desecrating human corpses.
And ultimately, they get in trouble for something they weren't even responsible for, the whole thing where they're the ones responsible for wrecking the party when it was Fry letting loose the monkeys.
True.
And he blames them for that, and they don't really try to push on that. It's like, that wasn't our fault or anything. No, they just kind of move forward from there. That never really seems to come up.
Well, that's not really the point of the plot, and there's only so much runtime in the episode.
Yeah, exactly. There seemed to be a lot going on in this episode for really no major payoff. It's weird. It's not a particularly tightly written episode, I would say.
Yeah, there's a lot of different moving plot threads, and they don't really overlap necessarily. But, they're put on dodeca-tuple secret probation. What even is secret probation, let alone doing it 12 times?
They're just making up buzzwords at that point.
Yeah, but on the subject of the party, Gunter's parents getting loose at the party, and there were some good jokes from that. There were some bad jokes from that. Like, the professor asking, what's that they're flinging at us? And Gunter just saying, dear Lord, oh, over the dean. You know how I feel about poop jokes.
I felt like they could have subverted it, like saying, it's like, that poor chocolate cake. I don't know.
Yeah, that would have been funny. That would have been a good joke, and they didn't do it. Now I'm disappointed.
Yeah, because it's off screen. It could have been anything.
Like, Leela's like, the chocolate cake I baked. It's like, I spent all night working and building that chocolate cake.
Although I did like the joke with Gunter saying, the professor's like a father to me, and Leela pointing out, but he's not your father. That guy in the punch bowl was your father. And then Fry does a spit take with his punch.
He had that punch the whole time?
Well, it was a good joke. And of course, when Gunter runs off, the professor's like, I always feared he'd run off like this. Why didn't I break his legs?
Ugh.
That's abusive parenting 101.
Oh, it's no different than the Lysine contingency in Jurassic Park.
I still feel like that joke could have have something else to it instead of obviously breaking his legs, but
it's the professor's cruelty. That's just what he is.
Yeah, sometimes. I do like when they subverted a cliche near the end of the episode, though, where Leela's, whispering the plan that's about to be done, and, that cliche where
where they whisper the plan and the audience doesn't know what's going to happen.
Until it does, yeah, and then they subvert it by the professor just asking, what? And she says it out loud.
That's what my dad does. Like, you'll explain something to him, and you'll spend, 2 minutes explaining to him, and he'll just say, what? Like, goddamn.
Ugh. Well, I mean, I guess if he's hard of hearing.
I just thought of how that the leg joke could have been done.
Do tell.
He could have said, I should have used, a slug or some other animal that is pretty stationary.
Why didn't I use a slug?
Yeah, that would have accomplished the same purpose, and that would have been funnier, honestly. Another thing the professor said that was just kind of cruel was, oh, that poor sweet monkey. Oh, well, let's gather him up. No sense letting him go to waste. He licks his lips. Just like, dude, too soon!
What? Well, that was a joke on The Simpsons. I guess Groening has something as thinks eating monkeys is funny. Because, when Grandpa it's always old people, too. Like, when Grandpa gets the helper monkey, he's like, this monkey's gonna change my life. Oh, I can't wait to eat that monkey.
Yeah, that's a weird parallel.
And it was the grandpa on that one, too. So I guess old people eating monkeys is funny to Groening.
Yeah, I don't think they needed to add the lip licking. It was already enough.
Well, the professor's always been this really, really dark humor in this guy.
Yeah, but it's dark enough as is.
Sometimes he dips into the even darker things. No, he's at least he's trying to not be wasteful.
I'm not saying he could still say, well, not let him go to waste, but you don't know what he plans.
I think it's funny if you know what he's trying to do.
There's really one other joke that I want to bring up that I liked, which was the professor when they're offering Gunter the hat and the banana, and it's just the professor's like, consider the philosophical and medical metaphysical ramifications of the... And Fry interrupts, banana, banana, banana. What are the philosophical and metaphysical ramifications of the banana? This is going to bother me all day now.
Well, if you have a banana for scale, how many bananas wide is the universe? And, well, the banana as we know it today is actually a cultivated fruit. It had to be genetically modified through breeding.
Yeah.
So there's that aspect where he talks about how he genetically modified the monkey, or they could have genetically modified him, but instead he put it all in a hat.
Yeah, and the Cavendish will probably be gone by the time 3,000 years comes around.
Yeah, there's also the whole Gros Michel Cavendish thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Where the banana we have now isn't the banana that existed decades ago because it's a monoculture, so this one plague was able to just wipe the old ones out.
So that's why banana-flavored candy doesn't taste like any existing banana, because it's based on a banana that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, and it just... Maybe the philosophical ramifications of the banana are that we need diversity, because if we're a monoculture, that leads us incredibly susceptible to disaster.
And there's your moral for the episode right there. I don't think we're going to top that.
So, yeah, overall, what did you guys think?
Funny episode, even if it didn't really accomplish anything, but we did get some really good discussion out of it.
Yeah, there were some good jokes here.
Yeah, it's just something to watch, anytime. It's not a big deal, but it's funny.
Yeah, it's a disposable episode, but it is very funny for what it is. For now, stay in school, kids.
Unless they make you pay for it, then get your education somewhere else.
Yeah, unless they make you pay for it. Thank you for listening to Space Podcast 3000. Your three voices of the future are Nova Altman, Doug Hancox, and Eden Valerie. The theme music is Voxel Revolution by Kevin MacLeod, licensed from filmmusic.io. Find it and hundreds of other free songs at incompetech.filmmusic.io. You can hear more episodes of Space Podcast 3000 on YouTube or at soundcloud.com/spacepod3k. Follow us on Twitter at spacepod3k. Be sure to join us next time as the Planet Express crew put on a show in When Aliens Attack.